So, the bass riff to Patrice Rushen's Forget-Me-Nots. Look up Patrice Rushen. She was a sort of Herbie Hancock style keyboard player from the 70s and 80s. Fantastic musician, highly underrated. People go, who's that then? So the bass riff from that tune is famous also on the Men in Black theme. Here come the Men in Black. It's just been changed for, Forget-Me-Nots, which is the original tune. So the riff goes a bit like this. It's all this sort of slap and pick thing here. So it works really nicely though if it's played gently. It just doesn't cut it if you play it really loudly. Also, leave plenty of gaps. I know it's busy as a riff, but leave the gaps you can. Now, on the iOS GarageBand drummer app here, I've got Darcy who's going to play drums for me. Now, I've set the hi-hat complexity sort of 3 out of 4 and the kick and snare to 5, so there's a bit of 16th note activity going on there. So if I just play that back, so I'm going to play along with that. Now I'm going to start by playing it slower, just to try and get those inflections and get that timing really accurate. You only get really good timing if you keep it nice and slow. So let's see what Darcy's going to do. So 1 bar counting. Here we go. So let's put that up there. Okay, here we go. And there it is. So the riff is in F sharp minor. We've got F sharp, so 2nd fret E string, and then a sort of a pick on 4th fret D string. Then you move up to 5th fret on the A string for a D, and you slap that one. So we've got you can either put a ghost note before you play that D or just leave it. Sounds actually a little bit, it has more impact if you don't put that little mute. Like that. So we've got 2 octave patterns. You've got 2 and 4 and 5 and 7. And then back to 5. And then we've got this, where you do a 5 and hammer that 7 on. Now it's important to get that hammer on to happen rhythmically correctly instead of. So it has to make sure that you have to make sure that hammer on actually does land on that first beat of the next bar. Like that. 2, 3, 4. So 1 for that 7th fret. So we've got 2, 4, 5, 7, 5, 5 there, 7. So hammer that. Then you've got another one of those. Then we go to 2, which is a B, and 2 of those notes. So and then we're on the second half of the riff. So 2, 4, 5, 7, 5, 5, 7, 7, 2, 4, 4, 2, 2, 4, 2. Now there's an awful lot of on these strings here. The slap actually goes across quite a few of the strings, and when you're aiming for a particular note on a particular string, what you do is you come to rest on the first two strings so that they don't sound, otherwise you get this. And there's also a certain amount of muting that you have to do with your left hand. So it's worth trying to play this nice and slow so you can just get the... So the second half of the riff is virtually the same, it just changes at the end. And then you've got this 4/6, 4/6, 4/6. But it's literally, you just slap and then just do the hammer on and pull, but they need to be rhythmically correct as well. Now on the record, sometimes the fourth is slapped every time. So you've got two jobs to do. So speeding that up, if I put it at sort of it's about 110, it's not quite that sort of disco-y 120, but it's not far off. Let's try 112. And there we go. That felt about right. If a riff's too fast, it just doesn't work. You know, it might seem flashy at the time. We think, "Whoa, yeah, a bit of slap bass," but actually, it just drives you around the twist if it's too fast. It's also more difficult to get that real rhythmic impact if it's overly fast. You know, it's you just end up with this sort of approximation as to what the rhythm is, and if you play it too fast, you just can't feel those beats. And it's also impossible to play. So, you know, quite a lot to think about there. So there is Patrice Rushen's Forget-Me-Nots.